Cryogenics, freezing our bodies so that we could hopefully one day come back to life. This is being talked about here and there, but it's gaining some ground as some news articles talk about folks being interested in freezing their bodies so they can come back to life at a later time. What does this mean for the state of the soul? Does the human soul have a little pause for some time while the body's being frozen? Will the same human soul come back to the same body if this cryogenic stuff works? We'll explore this question and all the weird things about this topic here on Third Eyesight. My name is Juan Francisco, and I'm a psychic medium and tarot card reader. I've always been curious about the supernatural, the paranormal, and psychic abilities, and I'm here to share my stories and interview folks who want to share their own stories with us. Let's get to it. Thank you all for your patience as I struggle with my uploading schedule for episodes. I'm actually recording this episode the day I'm going to publish it, which is something I try not to do. I rarely do that. And I don't think I'll have time to edit this episode. So you're going to get all the little ums and hms and the pauses and silences and the little imperfections in this episode. I'm going to say it now. I hope I can edit it, but I really don't think I'll have time because I leave on a trip in about 2 hours. And I have stuff to do. So I'm going to accept the fact that I will not edit this episode, even though I want to. And it's okay if I don't edit it because I know that I enjoy talking. And I know that I'm also a little self-conscious about how I talk and the pauses that I make when I'm speaking, when I'm recording, like the I just did just now. I'm very self-conscious about that. So I know that I'll do my best. So here we go. I received a message from Jacob on Instagram, and Jacob sent me an Instagram post about how cryogenics are quickly becoming a thing. And for those of you who don't know what cryogenics and what that field is, it's the process of freezing somebody's body to preserve it and to hopefully have it come back to life at a later time. But there are more details to it that I'm going to get into in just a second. But Jacob sent me a post, and Jacob has been following me for a while and knows the kind of work that I do. And Jacob asked me, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think has happened to their souls, as in those whose bodies are frozen? Are they stuck in limbo, or have they moved on? So before I get into my own opinion of on all of this from a spiritual standpoint, I first want to say that I'm not really going to delve into the ethics of cryogenics, whether it's ethical or not. I don't think that really matters personally, so I'm not going to get into that. I am going to refer to 2 news articles that I found that delved into this a little bit. So the first one was by Fox 10 in October 2022 by the journalist Jackie Ibanez, if I have that right. And I'm going to link these 2 articles in the podcast description, by the way. This first article by Fox 10 talks about freezing after death. So cryogenics, something I did not understand. I mean, this makes sense, but I didn't really think about it. That cryogenics is the process of freezing somebody's body after they have died. And here I kind of thought that you freeze yourself while you're alive, but of course you would kill yourself if you do that. So that's not a really good idea. So the person has to be deceased for them to undergo cryogenics. And in Scottsdale, Arizona, there's a facility housing 200 people whose bodies have been committed to cryogenics. And the goal is to wait for technology to catch up later in a way that will bring them back to life. So right now we do not have the technology to bring people back to life, like Lazarus kind of effect. So the goal is to have these bodies undergo this cryogenics process, and hopefully in the near future, there'll be a way to bring them back to life. And it says here, I'm going to quote the article, it will cost a minimum of $200,000 to freeze an entire body, or $80,000 to just freeze the brain. Metro News, which goes by the URL metro.co.uk, had an article this month, March 2023, by the journalist Josh Layton, a man in the UK who they describe as a pensioner. And this man in the UK wants to freeze himself after death, as well, That's the only way to do it. He wants to freeze himself after his death in the Cryonics Institute in Michigan in the United States. And the temperature goes down to negative 196 degrees Celsius. And his first wife went into a deep freeze, cryogenic deep freeze, in May 2013 after her clinical death from cancer. And the one amusing thing that this man in the UK says is, so he has an Austin 7 Ulster vintage racing car, and here's what he says about why he wants to undergo cryogenics. It's not completely why he wants to do it, but here are some quotes from what he says. If I do come out of suspension, I look forward to more than likely finishing my car off and going for a drive. I quite like life, and I'm certainly not fed up with living at the moment. It would just be about carrying on with life and continuing doing the things I enjoy now. It would be nice to meet future generations of the family. I suppose it would be the same as it is now, and I would give them money and take them out for meals. It would be very exciting. I would love to meet, my great grandmother. Now, I would love to meet her, he says, but obviously it's not possible. So he wants it to be possible for his descendants to meet him. And the article did mention that he would like to meet his first wife once they are both out of the cryogenic process. But he says that, I think he said in the article that if it doesn't work and his wife can't come back, then he'll just be, he has informed, or he has asked that he be put back to sleep. He be put back. It sounds like he really wants to, number one, enjoy life because he likes life a lot, and number two, he wants to see his first wife, which is really sweet. um, I find this really interesting because as someone like myself who's very afraid of death, this is a very interesting concept, and I've often thought, what if I had the choice to live forever and ever and ever? But that sounds just as frightening to me as dying. So I don't know. It's like this catch 22. And I wonder if folks who think about undergoing cryogenics, I wonder if they do have that fear of death. I'm sure they do, maybe. I mean, maybe not all of them. I can't speak for all of them. I'm sure some of them do. But I wonder if they also have a fear of living forever or living for longer. I mean, no one can live forever. The body is temporary. I don't think we'll ever achieve living eternally in the physical body. So what does this all mean for the state of the soul? It kind of makes us question also, does the human have a soul? And of course, I know a human has a soul, but let's play devil's advocate for a bit. If a body can survive death in this way through technology, AI, does that mean that the human body has no soul? Does a soul come back to the same body? So I'm going to kind of lay the groundwork for my opinion I'm about to share, and just want to let everyone know I am not a scientist. I have not died and come back. I don't have any particular expertise other than my opinion and my own life experience when it comes to souls. And there are books that I have read that have helped inform how I view the state of the human soul, the different states of the human soul. So first, I want to lay the groundwork, like I said before, by saying that I believe our souls are eternal. I believe that when we die, our souls go back to, well, our souls are always, whether in physical form or not physical form, our souls are always a piece of God, as I like to call it. You can call it higher power, universe, source. We are all little pieces of God, but we are separate. We are seemingly separate from each other only because we are each in different different physical bodies. The same goes for animals, for plants, everything that is a living being, and the whole universe is a living being. It is always expanding. It is in motion all the time. So everything around us is living and breathing in their own distinct ways, and we are all part of God energy. But we just seem separate because we are in physical form, and we seem to be distinguishable from each other, but at a soul level, we are not. We are all part of the same higher power being. And I believe that our souls can reincarnate if it is the soul's destiny to reincarnate. The soul knows, and God energy knows, when it is time for us to stop reincarnating or to not reincarnate for a certain amount of quote unquote time, because time is an illusion also. We define human life with time, but on the other side, there is no time. And I do believe that I have lived many lifetimes before. I have seen memories of my lifetimes through past life regression therapy that my godfather did for me, and I would love to do it again. So I know that I have lived other lives before. And I also know that it is possible, I'm going to go in another direction here. Near death experiences. I just interviewed Michelle. I interviewed Michelle recently on this podcast about her near death experience. And I have other near death experience stories I'm going to help tell on this podcast through interviews in the coming months. And I know that it is possible for someone to die and come back if it is not their time to die. And whether it is someone's time to die or not really depends on the mission of the universe for that human soul, for that soul in the human body. I'd rather say that soul in the human body. It depends on what the mission is of the soul. And see, here's where a pause comes, as I think. And I usually edit out the pauses so you don't get bored. Like, okay, is he going to say something? But I'm going to pause for a moment and think about what I'm going to say next because it's in my head. I just want to find the right words for it in this very unedited podcast episode. I've also heard stories and read things about the ability for human beings to teleport on a soul level. So one of my favorite figures in history, in recent history, because I believe he died in the 1960s, and I believe he's a saint in the Catholic Church, Padre Pio. Although I don't identify as Roman Catholic, and I don't agree with the Roman Catholic Church, and I probably would not have agreed with a lot of things that Padre Pio believed in and preached, to me, he is an extremely special person. Most people know Padre Pio for struggling with the stigmata. I think he was the last world famous case to experience the stigmata, I believe, and scientists did study his body, I believe, while he was undergoing stigmata. I could be wrong about that, but definitely after his death, they studied his body and could not determine where these wounds were coming from, if they were not self-inflicted, which I don't believe they were. And stigmata is a whole other topic for another day. I don't know what my thoughts are on stigmata, but Padre Pio was an extraordinary person, and he was a very humble person too. He got a lot of press and attention because of his stigmata, but he really didn't like it. He tried to cover up his wounds on his hands. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with stigmata, don't think about the movie with Christina Applegate. That is a very horrific take on stigmata. Now, to me, stigmata is horrific. I would never want to go through it if it's a real thing. Stigmata is the experience of someone taking on the wounds of Jesus Christ. So in the hands, in the feet, and sometimes on the head. So, and I think also sometimes in the abdomen where Jesus Christ was allegedly poked on the side after his death. But it's usually the hands and the feet. And it is literally, and it's going to sound graphic. So for those of you who do not like graphic content, just be aware that the next 10 seconds will cover graphic content. It's a sensation. It's the wounds of as if nails were nailed into your hands and feet, and you take on those wounds. So he had those wounds. Padre Pio was also very well known for teleporting. People would say that they saw him at a certain time of the day, or that he was across the world or across the country, which he was based in Italy. And there were reports of different people seeing him at the same time in different places. And I actually have a book on his life, which was a wonderful book. I need to find the title, but there's so many books and so many articles on Padre Pio. So he was known for, the thing I want to focus on here especially is the teleportation thing. He was known for teleporting. He was known for being in different places at once. People seeing his soul, or what they thought was his full human body, in different places at once. So perhaps there are no limits to the human soul, to the soul, period. I need to stop calling it a human soul because everything has a soul. Perhaps there are no limits. So if, let's say, the soul that can be in a human body can be in different places at once while being in a human body, and that the soul reincarnates into different human bodies over human time, then maybe with cryogenics, the soul, if cryogenics works and somebody can come back to life, maybe the soul can decide to come back to that body or to be reborn in another body. It makes me kind of think of dementia and Alzheimer's. Some mediums, when they do readings for folks whose loved ones died from Alzheimer's And I don't have an opinion on this, definitive opinion on this myself, because I have not experienced channeling a soul who passed from Alzheimer's in the physical world. But some mediums will say that that souls tell some mediums will say that souls have told them that when they underwent Alzheimer's and they lost their memory, that sometimes their soul had already left the body a week or even a month before. It's like a piece of their soul was already in on the other side while the rest of it was here. Same thing happens with a coma. Some people will say that when they channel someone who was in a coma, that their soul went elsewhere. And a lot of people, when they were in comas, when they have been in comas, they went to the other side and they come back and they say that they met Jesus and God and other religious figures. So I think there are no bounds or limits to the human soul. It's interesting. I'm thinking of the magician the illusionist, and I guess an illusionist, not so much a magician, but the illusionist Chris Angel. Very entertaining guy. Seems very nice, I think. I don't know much else about him. I used to watch him as a kid. But he would do this quote unquote trick where he would die in front of audiences and come back. And he would have audience members hold his wrist. Now, I don't know if they were plants in the audience, if they're planted in the audience as part of the show, but they looked genuinely freaked out. So that he would ask two audience members to hold each of his wrists where his pulse would be. And he would say that he's going to die, and just so that they can confirm that he's dead. And sure enough, he would be sitting in a chair and he would just droop, and the two audience members would freak out because they felt his pulse stop. That would freak me out. But maybe Chris Angel's onto something. If that's real, what he did was real. Maybe he was astral traveling, or maybe he was, I don't know. I don't know what he did. Maybe it was all fake. I don't know. But that's the other thing. Let's talk about astral travel and soul travel. That is a thing. There was one time, I've mentioned this in the podcast before, I believe, when I was about to astral travel, but then I freaked out and came right back because I was just way too scared. I saw the moon get larger and larger. I was outside watching the stars. I saw the moon. I closed my eyes for a moment and I concentrated on leaving my body just for a moment, just to leave it for a moment, not permanently. And I just all of a sudden got this image of the moon getting larger. Now, sometimes when you look at a light source or the moon at night and you close your eyes, even though your eyes are closed, you see this like imprint of the moon in your vision behind your closed eyelids, right? I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if there's a scientifically better way to describe that. So I know it wasn't that because it felt too real. I got so scared. I know there was something real about it. Can I prove it? No. May I be overreacting about it and it really was just my eyeballs playing a trick on me? Maybe, but it just felt so real, so I came right back. If the soul can do that, and I know other people who have actually soul traveled to other countries, and yeah, a lot of confirmations too were made with like, oh, I saw my dad, saw his mother cooking in the kitchen when he astral traveled once. And when he called his mother right after, she sure enough was cooking in the kitchen. So this is a real thing. So the human soul, I need to stop saying human soul. I'm just so used to it. Because everything has a soul. Animals have souls. Everything has a soul. Our souls really can do anything. It's just about learning how to do these things. And so when it comes to cryogenics, I promise I'm not going off topic. This is all, like I said, to lay the groundwork for my opinion on cryogenics when it comes to the human soul. Let's say cryogenics is real. I personally believe that if I were to die tomorrow, which I hope not, knock on wood, if I were to die tomorrow and I put in my will to put me into a cryogenic facility with the hope that I can be reanimated, revived in 30, 50 years when the technology catches up and it can bring me back to life, I believe two things are possible. If it is my soul's destiny, my soul will come back into my body and it will be me again. This is the thing though. You know what? No, I'm going to put that to the side. Let me continue with these two instances and I'm going to tell you what the catch is. So number one, I believe my soul can come back into my body and it'll be my soul that was originally in my body, in this body again. Number two, I believe that if it is not my soul's destiny to come back into this body, then another soul can come into my body and live a physical life in my human body. Here's the catch. I said that I have lived other lifetimes before as different people. I have been women. I have been different races from different cultures. So it's pretty easy to understand that my soul that is in my body now was in other bodies that had different personalities and maybe some different interests and traits. But there are some interests and traits that have carried on through those bodies through to today, which is why people say sometimes your fears in this lifetime, your phobias, your passions are sometimes influenced by past lives that you've had. However, I know that in past lives I have been a pretty rotten person, and I like to think I'm not a rotten person in this lifetime. So, even if my soul that I have now in my body, if this soul decides to come back to a cryogenically revived body, it may not be the same me. Because this body is just a receptacle. It's like a vase to put different kinds of flowers in. I don't know if that makes sense. So I'm going to restate it because even I'm trying to really absorb what I just said. If my soul decides to come back into my revived body after cryogenics, that doesn't necessarily mean I'll be the same exact person as I was 50 years ago when I was, before cryogenics, before dying. Because maybe my soul has a different mission this time around when it comes back. And so my personality may be different, my passions may be different, my soul's purpose may be different. Maybe I will want a different career to fulfill a different purpose. Who knows? Who knows? Again, I'm not here pretending to be the talking Bible. I don't know everything. Sometimes I feel like I don't know anything. So please know this is just my opinion. As wacky as it may sound, you don't have to believe it. You don't have to agree with it. I'm just exploring this. But I think it's highly possible. I mean, our personalities. Do our personalities come from our human brain? Are we born with our personalities, or is it nurture? Is it nature or nurture? Does the brain determine our personalities, or does the human soul? I believe it's two things. I believe it's the two things. I believe our brains, our human physical brains, and our souls make up who we are. It's like, for lack of a better example, it's like mixing a cocktail. You can't have a rum and Coke without the rum and the Coke. If you just have rum, it tastes very different from rum and Coke. If you just have Coke, it tastes very different from the rum and Coke. But both together make rum and Coke. I'm going to say, let's call my soul. Okay, this is going to sound even weirder. There's human Juan, and there's universal soul Juan. I don't know. That's human Juan and soul Juan. But see, my soul doesn't have a name. My soul is not Juan when it dies. My soul is part of who Juan was after death. My soul encapsulates so much more than just Juan. Now, you can ask, well, Juan, in a mediumship reading, does that mean that my grandmother coming through isn't really my grandma? It's just like a figment of my grandma, or just like a particle of my grandma? Well, sort of yes and no. It's yes and no. The soul of your grandmother who has passed, that soul has also lived many lifetimes and has been more people than just your grandmother. But that soul wants to show up for you because you will recognize that soul energy best if it gives you evidence in a mediumship reading of your grandmother's life. And when you pass and you are reconnected well, first of all, we're never disconnected. But when you experience the full reconnection of being with your grandmother again, once you pass, you will both recognize each other's soul energy, and you'll recognize each other's souls for everything that soul has been through, not just life as your grandma and you as her grandson, granddaughter, grandchild. Does that make sense? As if I'm expecting feedback from you in real time right now. So I think we have to really consider how limitless and boundless the soul is and how much experience a soul has. And like I said, if a soul can jump from human body to human body between death cycles and rebirth cycles and reincarnate, then I think it's possible for a body that undergoes cryogenics, that dies and undergoes cryogenics. That's apparently what has to happen. You can't just freeze yourself while you're alive. I think it's possible for a soul to either decide to come back into the same body and be the same person, or for another soul to come into that body and fulfill a mission it needs to fulfill. I think that's very possible. I personally, when I see this news about cryogenics, I'm not gonna lie. It does make me question, like, oh my God, well, if this works, which, maybe I'll be wrong in 10, 20 years, and I'm willing to be wrong in 10, 20 years. I don't think this is going to work. I don't think we can bring people back to life once they've died. But if this works, because we've said that about many other things in human history, that it won't work, and yet it does. If this works, it will make me question, like, oh my God, what is the nature of the human soul then? And it'll even make me question for a second, like, does the human soul exist? And all this stuff that I'm doing in mediumship readings, am I just channeling things on a psychic level and not actually connecting with loved ones? Now, I know that's a very brave thing, a daring thing for me to say to you as a psychic medium, but I'm just as human as you are. I wonder about what's on the other side, even though I channel people from the other side. However, what I do know, because I may have my doubts, like even Mother Teresa, like I've said in a past podcast, Mother Teresa had doubts. And yes, I just bumped into my mic and I can't edit that out because I'm in a rush today. So you're going to hear the bump in my mic. Even Mother Teresa had doubts about God and the existence of God. We can all have doubts and still have faith. It's okay. I truly believe that. And what my faith is based on are the stories that my family has told me, the experiences I've had with spirit, whether it's apparitions, feeling things in a room, my one my relatives seeing things and telling me about it. These things happen, and all families can be a little crazy, but my family can be crazy too. But we're not just seeing things. We're not just hearing things out of nowhere. These are things that actually happen. And to me, they're proof, anecdotal proof that there is an existence of the soul after the human body dies. It's just a matter of learning what are the limits to that soul. Is it really boundless? And I think it is. And I think with cryogenics, anything's possible. The universe knows what it's doing. And I also believe there is no way to fool God, to fool the universe. The universe knows the advancements of technology we're going to make. It's not like we're trying to fool the universe and cheat the universe. The universe knows what we're trying to do. I believe in UFOs, and I'm not talking about the balloons from China, because those were obviously man-made, human-made. Oh, maybe they're humans on other planets, though. Those were Earth human-made UFOs. I'm talking about sightings where it's like things popping into the sky and then disappearing blink of an eye, or zooming past extremely fast past a mountain range. Like, these are things that people have seen and recorded. There is technology out there in the universe that we have yet to master, I believe, personally. And who's to say that we cannot master that on our planet one day? That speed of travel that other galaxies or planets, people on those planets, beings have mastered. Who's to say we can't do that? So to think that where we are now, technology as a Earth society is the most advanced it's ever going to be. First of all, I hope not, but I also hope that the advancements we do make are for the benefit of humanity, not for the greed and selfishness of humanity. And for me personally, something like cryogenics, it serves a selfish purpose. It does. It does. And I don't think there's anything good or bad about that. I think there are worse things to do with technology than freeze your body after death with the hope of coming back. Um, but it is what it is. It's selfish. It's the desire to keep living and to keep experiencing life. And I don't blame these people for feeling that way. I love living life. I'm very privileged. I'm privileged enough to say that I enjoy my life very much, which is why I'm afraid to die one day. So I think the universe knows what's going to come, whatever advancements in technology we're going to make. And the hope on my end is that we do it with the right intention. That's what matters. Before I go, I want to bring up that with AI being a huge topic right now, and tech leaders across the world, I think, or across the United States, have signed a petition saying that there will be profound damaging effects on humanity if AI goes the same course that it's going now. And it makes me wonder, as a medium, what helps me channel is my life experience. Souls on the other side use my life experience to help share a message with their loved ones. So it's like they're going into my memory bank and bringing up images and sensations and smells and everything having to do with the five senses. My five senses library. My six senses library. To help me convey a message to the person I'm talking to in a reading. If AI can gather all the intelligence and information in the world, it's like an AI, like an encyclopedia in an AI machine or platform, does that mean that one day AI may be able to do mediumship? Because we use K9 meters and energy detectors and voice boxes. I forgot what they're called. I think they're spirit boxes. People use these things in paranormal investigations to help see if spirit is active in a space, like hyperactive in a space, right? When they do paranormal investigations, some people call them ghost hunts. If spirit can work through technology to show itself, could spirit work through AI to provide messages to their loved ones? That's a wild thought. But I got to thinking about it today as I was walking down the street getting breakfast. I was preparing my mind to do this episode on this topic of cryogenics, and I thought, can there ever be like medium AI? I don't like the sound of that. Not because it means my loss of business to me. Not at all. I just think there's something so important about the human touch to this work. I think it's just so important. But maybe that's a topic for another day. Who knows? Well, thank you for listening to this unedited podcast episode. I'm sorry I couldn't edit it. I apologize if you heard little bumps, like me bumping on my microphone, me going, or even, I don't know, some other ungodly sounds you might have heard coming from my mouth. I'm not going to get nasty now. Sorry. But I promise I will get back to a regular schedule. I cannot promise now that I will publish an episode next Wednesday, probably by next Friday, but I do want to get back to publishing on Wednesdays. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful upcoming rest of your week. If you have a question or topic you want me to cover on Third Eyesight, head to my website, juanfranciscospirit.com/contact, and send a message my way. If you really enjoyed this episode, leave a review wherever you listen. I'd really appreciate it.